Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ward 2 City Hall Community Meeting. My name is Christine McNulty. I am the city's Community Engagement Specialist. Before we get started, I just want to note that we have restrooms on either side of the cafeteria. Pizza and refreshments are on the long table on that side of the room, and we have copies of tonight's presentation as well as a bunch of other city materials up at these three tables here in the front. So with that being said, I would like to invite Councilor J.T. Scott up to the podium.
All right. You don't have to clap. It's okay. Y'all don't have to clap. I'm just your neighbor. Hi, everybody. I'm J.T. Scott. I'm your city councilor here in Ward 2 and your neighbor. And I'm really glad to see y'all again. This has been a heck of a year for a lot of reasons, but there are some things to really celebrate happening in our community right now. I'm really glad that we have folks here from so many city departments to give us an update. They're going to be a lot. I'm glad they printed the slides 4 on a page, because otherwise I'd have a phone book, I think. But some of the departments here have been doing such great work on so many of the issues that we're struggling with as a community, as a city. I want to especially call out the Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs. There's a table full of information over there. Yeah, round of applause. Y'all, these are the people who are going out and talking not just to our neighbors who are scared, but going out and talking to the small business owners in our city to find out how they can be part of creating safe harbor islands, how they can be part of keeping our neighbors safe. And so I can't say enough about those efforts. Maybe they'll say a little bit about them later. But I want to say that some of the most important work on that front happens not with city personnel. It happens with getting to know our neighbors, right? Knowing who they are, letting them know that they can count on us, because we have to stand together in this. That's the only way we get through. But outside of that, there is a lot your city can do for you. We're going to hear from Constituent Services tonight, the 311. We're going to hear about one of my favorite things that has happened this year in Ward 2. The city created the first new public park here in Ward 2, and it might be the first public park created by the city with city money in 20 years. So head on down by Target. There's a beautiful place to sit. So we're going to hear from a lot of other departments. We're going to hear, I think Mayor Kachiana Ballantyne can't be here tonight, so Director Galagani of the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development is going to be delivering those slides. And it's going to be talking about different strategies the city is working on to try to lower housing costs. We all know there's a lot more work to be done there. But one of the things I want to say, it's about 25 slides deep into that presentation, is really recognize the contribution that Ward 2 has made to that housing density, to making more opportunities, to having more neighbors. And I just want to acknowledge that the downside cost of that is nobody likes living next to construction. You know, most of these buildings have happened on about a 3-block stretch of Prospect Street. And so it's landed hard on those neighbors. So again, that's where I feel like it's really important for our city to mitigate those impacts. And I know city staff work hard on it. And tonight is a great night for those of you who've been feeling those impacts, who say, you know what, I've got an idea, maybe not even how to make it suck less for my street, but to make it suck less for the next street that this happens to, right? Because as we open our doors to the world, as we build more places for people to come, because Somerville is a safe city, because Somerville does care about our neighbors, it's going to be tight. It's going to be hard, but I know, as with everything else, we're going to get by it with our neighbors. Before I get done here, I just want to acknowledge the other electeds that are here in the room tonight. I see some at-large counselors. I see Councilor Wilson is here. There he is, all the way over there. I see Councilor Strezzo is in the house, and Councilor Mba, of course, as well as, of course, several candidates for office. So seek them out. It appears to be a loose cloud of people over there. Likewise, take notes during the meeting and make sure you see, oh, and of course, my apologies, School Committee in Ward 2, Alana Krepchin is also here tonight. Thank you. You know, this is an opportunity not just to hear slides, and there's going to be plenty of those, but also to talk to the people who are representing these departments and find a way to hook in to something, whether it's something you care about deeply and want to help with, or something you care about deeply and want to see fixed. So I'm going to leave it at that. thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the next year with y'all.
Thank you so much, Counselor. So for the meeting format tonight, after each presentation, we will take 2 initial questions. We have a microphone available for audience questions, so please raise your hand and wait for the microphone before asking your question. And if we don't get to your question initially, we will open up into a general Q&A at the end of all presentations. Please note that I will do my best during the Q&A sections to give everyone the opportunity to ask a question. If you've asked questions already and you see that other people have their hands up, please be patient. I will go to them first, but I will get to you after. So if we don't get to your question tonight at all, you can email cm@somervillema.gov and we'll direct your comment to the appropriate department. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. Meeting recordings will be available online at the conclusion of our meeting series and will be posted on the City TV Government YouTube channel. And with that, I have a few quick city updates before we dive into the main presentations. The Somerville Public Library Strategic Planning Survey has been extended until Friday, October 17th. You can fill out the survey by scanning this QR code on the slide or by visiting somervillepubliclibrary.org. A reminder that Somerville's municipal election will take place on Tuesday, November 4th. On this slide are various deadlines for registering to vote, submitting vote-by-mail applications, as well as blue box locations for dropping off vote-by-mail ballots. If you are looking to vote by mail, please complete the mail-in ballot application and return it by October 28th. And if you have already completed your ballot, please drop it off at your earliest convenience /ASAP to get that into elections. And you can drop that either at elections or in one of the various blue ballot boxes located around the city. And for all election information, please visit somervillema.gov/elections. On September 19th, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed the proposed new City of Somerville Charter for the November election. Two ballot questions will allow voters to decide whether to accept the charter and whether to extend the mayoral term. To learn more about the charter process, you can visit somervillema.gov/charter review. The engineering division is leading efforts to transform how stormwater is managed in the city, reducing flooding and improving the health of our local waterways like the Mystic River. When complete, the Poplar Street Pump Station, located in Ward 2's Brick Bottom neighborhood, will significantly expand drainage capacity by connecting our system to the MBTA system underneath the nearby Green Line tracks. The project also includes a 4 million gallon stormwater storage tank to help manage water during increasingly heavy storms. This project is one of a series of actions the city is undertaking to reduce water pollution, address flooding, and modernize Somerville's infrastructure. Work is expected to continue through 2027, and you can visit the project website seen here on the slide for more information and periodic updates. In collaboration with the Mobility, Parking, and Fire divisions, the Engineering division has been improving signals throughout the city. In particular, we are executing a key goal of the administration's fiscal year 26 budget to upgrade our traffic signals with a location-based emergency vehicle preemption system. And accessibility is equally important. We are in the process of installing 200 accessible crossing signs with the street name and raised text in Braille. We are also actively upgrading our pedestrian signals with accessible push buttons and countdown timers. Since December 2024, the Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs has held over 150 Know Your Rights trainings for community members. If you're looking for this type of information or any other information about our wonderful SOIA staff, you can visit them over here at this table at the front, or you can visit somervillema.gov/SOIA. And on that note, we have the Latin American Caribbean Heritage Month celebration, Saturday, October, is that the 18th? At the 18th at the Healy School from 2 to 5 p.m. If you are currently a caregiver, the Somerville Council on Aging has resources for you and your family. The COA offers a caregiver support group, educational resources from partner organizations, and other forms of group support. You can learn more and register by contacting Molly Pagliuca by email at mpagliuca@somervillema.gov or by calling the phone number listed here on the screen. The Somerville Climate Ambassador Program is designed to empower Somerville residents to take action on climate change in their community. If you're looking for an opportunity to learn something new, get more involved in your community, or meet new people, consider applying to become a climate ambassador. You can scan the QR code here or visit somervillema.gov/CFA to apply. The applications are open until December 1st. The Assembly Row Fire Station grand opening is happening this Saturday, October 18th. It starts at 10 a.m. There's going to be a short speaking portion, a hose uncoupling, which I think is like a ribbon cutting for fire stations, but they're doing that. And there's going to be light refreshments and touch a truck as well. So come on out. And on that note, there are a lot of events in Somerville, and we wanted to highlight a couple of them. The Summer Streets Monster Mash is planned for Sunday, October 16th on Somerville Ave, and the annual Truck or Treat will be held next Thursday, October 23rd from 5 to 7 p.m. at the City Hall Concourse. And finally, you can stay up to date with all things City of Somerville by subscribing to our weekly newsletter. You can do this by using the QR code on the slide or by visiting somervillema.gov/subscribe. On this webpage, you'll find a list of other departments that all have their own newsletters, and we welcome you to subscribe to any and all of them that might interest you. So that concludes our quick updates portion, and typically Mayor Ballantyne would come up here and give a short speech, but as she's not able to make it, we have a very gracious guest speaker who is Tom Galligani, who is the director of the Office of Community Space and Development. No, sorry.
Here's a real quiz for everybody. Does anybody know what OSPCD means? I'll give you a hint. It's a city department. It's a big city department. Does anybody know? Raise your hand if you think you can correctly identify all 5 words in OSPCD. And if you're an elected official, I'm going to look to non-elected officials. And did everybody hear that? Big cash prizes go to that person. By now you know this is not Mayor Ballantyne. I look kind of like Mayor Ballantyne, right? No, not at all. Thanks for having me tonight. Hopefully I can do justice to the mayor's speech. I do want to tell you that Ward 2 is near and dear to my heart. I would not be here if not for Ward 2. Because 110 years ago, my grandmother's family moved from Nova Scotia, came to Ward 2 on Concord Avenue, moved into an apartment on the 2nd floor of, I forget which house, I think it was 58. That house was owned by my grandfather's family, who lived on the 1st floor. And as what happens in those days, you kind of marry, you end up marrying somebody who you kind of see every day. Well, they saw each other every day. One was upstairs, one went downstairs. At some point, they started dating. At some point, they got married. At some point, they moved to what they call God's country in West Somerville, when the new housing was being built at the time in West Somerville, and they raised their family, including my father, on Hooker Ave in Ward 7. Thank you for providing a place for me to exist, perhaps. Thanks so much. I'm going to talk about the housing crisis. I talked about one house in Ward 2 that's important to my heart, but I really want to talk about something that's impacting all of us, and that is the housing crisis. We hear about it in the newspaper. We see it every day. Oh, also one thing. I have to share a little story. I was told at a late hour that I was going to replace the mayor and give this speech, and my immediate thoughts were, I was driving around. My immediate thought was, do I have my glasses? I'm going to need my glasses, and I have my glasses, thankfully. You'll see me trying to navigate reading glasses and still trying to address all of you, but I'm going to do the best I can. So give me a little grace if I am searching a little deeply for the details. Housing crisis is impacting all of us. Next slide, please. This is what some of the numbers tell us about the housing crisis. We know what's happened since the pandemic. Housing prices in the region have increased by 73%. That's colossal. Our average housing price in Somerville sometime in 2019 was something like $550,000. That price is over $1 million. The median home selling price is $1 million. So we have seen that, we've experienced that in 6 short years, and it's staggering. What the data tells us is that nearly 40% of our residents are rent burdened. Does anybody know what rent burden means? And not Lisa Davidson, she knows the answer to this, she's an expert. Rent burden means that you are spending 1/3 of your income on housing. And that's what the federal government has determined, and housing experts have determined, that is really the limit for you to be able to live comfortably and be able to provide everything else for your family. You should not be spending more than 1/3 of your housing, of your income on housing. But yet 40% of our residents are facing that reality, and 20% of our residents, 1 in 5 households, is spending over half of their income just on housing. And we know this is increasing each and every day. As housing prices go up, as rent goes up, it is making it more and more difficult for families to afford to live in Somerville. And we know what the reason is, right? Home prices have risen way too fast. Family incomes have not kept pace. Next slide, please. This is really dramatic. This tells the whole story. We're starting back in 2000, and we're tracking home prices and how they've increased. They've increased by 73%, and you've barely seen any increase in median household income and incomes. So you see that big gap that we now face with in 2023, and it's staggering. It's much more difficult for people to afford to live in Somerville. We know that. We feel that every day. Next slide, please. Yeah, and how do you feel that? The stories we see, that we hear in our community, our Office of Housing Stability and our housing office, they hear these stories every day. It feels like your building being sold. You're an apartment dweller, and your building is sold. And guess what? The new tenant, because they paid so much for that building, they're going to have to double the rent. That's what it feels like to people. It feels like a family needing to stay in unsafe housing because there really isn't any other option for them. They can afford this unsafe housing, and they can't move into something that would be decent. That's what it feels like, the impact of our housing crisis. And if you've lived here at any length of time, even 2 or 3 years, you know what it feels like. It feels like your neighbors, your friends, the classmates of your children moving away, moving out to Lawrence, moving out to New Hampshire, moving far away, not a mile certainly, an hour away, just so they can find housing that's affordable. That's what it feels like. So we feel this pressure on our community as people leave and are forced to go in other places. They no longer have the opportunity to become part of our community. And that feels not great, for sure. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, here we go. We are using every tool possible. We like to talk in the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. I know those 4 words. 5. Geez, I should know it's 5. We are using every tool in the toolbox, and yet we start making new tools too. We're constantly trying to make new tools to address the kinds of challenges that this community is facing. Some examples of what we're doing: we've made a big investment in helping our nonprofits buy existing homes so that we can keep them affordable. We're doing that with Justice Start, we're doing that with SEC, and we're doing that with the Somerville Community Land Trust, project by project, building by building, trying to keep homes affordable. We've also made a huge improvement that you might not notice, and that's the consolidated rental wait list. That is a mega list. We have all these affordable housing lotteries and affordable housing opportunities, and you got to put your name on a list. Up until this year, you literally had to say, okay, housing division, how many lists do you have? How many opportunities are they? And I want to put my name on every single one of those. It's pretty logical that we ought to combine all those lists. It seems pretty easy. Combine all those lists, have one mega list, have everybody's requirements, understand what they're eligible for, and put them on one list so I can just sign up one time. In fact, hopefully I can just sign up online. That sounds simple. It's been a colossal effort to get all of these different funding sources and requirements and project requirements and organize that into one list. But we've done it. Our housing division just did it. I think implemented it last spring. Spring, Lisa? So that's a huge improvement. Hopefully you don't need to go on that list, that you're not requesting affordable housing. But if you do need it, we've made it a lot easier, and we're really proud of that. We have advocated at the Commonwealth for lowering rental search fees. So we're constantly looking at ways locally that we can make housing more affordable and easier for people to access. And then when we can't do locally, we have to go up to the state. So we have a long track record led by the community, helped by elected leadership, to bang on that door, bang on that hill in Beacon Hill to really change the laws and make it easier for our residents to stay in their homes. Next slide, please. This slide talks about the Community Preservation Act. And if you voted last year, you probably participated, and most of you decided we ought to do more. We ought to raise more money locally. And we've, in essence, doubled the amount of money that we've raised through the Community Preservation Act. We used to generate about $3 million from this community, and that is doubled. That will now double to $6 million. So we've really doubled the opportunity for us to have an impact on open space, historic preservation, and housing. This community has decided to spend 55% of its Community Preservation Act funds for housing, because we know it's a crisis. We know it's a serious issue. And now we have twice as much money from that source to do the work that we want to do. Next slide, please. And we are, as it says, we are working in 3 key areas. We're building and preserving housing, we're preventing resident displacement, and we're matching housing to needs, making sure that the units that are created, the affordable housing that's created, matches what our community needs are. Next slide, please. We are doing a lot to create more housing, period, but more affordable housing, period. Using CPA, we have saved 54 homes in our community through our 100 Homes program, utilizing CPA. So again, this program allows us to give money to nonprofits. They buy existing homes, and we help to subsidize those transactions so that they can remain affordable forever. Let's see. Oh yes, we have. I want to talk about 299 Broadway. Is anybody familiar with the Star Market site in Winter Hill? Raise your hand. Nobody knows this place? Nobody knows this? You all know it, right? It's probably the most notorious vacant site in Somerville. And we have been working for a long time, for about 15 years, to turn that story around and turn a story where you have a vacant building that is an eyesore. Nothing good happens from a vacant building, and turning that around, getting community buy-in, community process, figure out what makes sense, how we can fill that hole in that community, and turn it into something that's positive. And we are poised to break ground on that project next month, which will deliver, let's see, 339 units of housing, 55% of which will be affordable. And importantly, this will fill in that huge vacant hole in our community. So I'm really excited about that personally. My staff, all 7 of my divisions have spent a lot of time making sure that that hits the right notes, that we have a project that we're all excited about, and that we're actually making some impact with housing. Next slide. Oh, and we have about like 800 more units in our pipeline from our nonprofits who are developing affordable housing to some of the inclusionary housing throughout our community, in our transformational areas, in Brick Bottom and in Assembly and in Boynton Yards. So more to come, a lot more to come. Next slide, please. This gives you a list of some of the projects that are happening in Ward 2. I want to point out 2 things. There's one really underway right now, and that's 68 units of housing on Allen Street. 13 units of those will be affordable according to our inclusionary housing ordinance. Just to start, a community nonprofit based in Cambridge has been doing a lot of work, and they are set to launch their next project at 24 Webster Street. Do folks know what building that is, 24 Webster Street? It's that single story, or maybe it's 2 stories. It's the cooperative of that used to house our carpenters. And next to the murder house. Is that a haunted house? Is that open next week for Halloween season? No. We can be making some dough. So 42 units of affordable housing will be built on that site. And speaking of the murder house, there's a developer right now that has acquired that from the family that owned it for decades, and they are poised to transform that vacant eyesore into something positive. Another, I think, 40 units of housing. 49, thank you, sir. So lots of interesting things will be happening in Ward 2 to keep an eye on. Next slide, please. Preventing resident displacement. How do we keep people in their homes? Well, we put together a big committee of folks, a task force of folks that met over the last 2 years to really take a look at our toolbox and say, hey, can we create more tools? Can we add more tools? The most important tool that we have right now is our Office of Housing Stability. We have a 15-person team who takes people off the street, gets phone calls from folks, people who are at risk of losing their housing and losing where they call home, and we help them. We help them in a number of different ways. We assist them with technical assistance, we connect them with legal assistance if they're facing eviction, and we support them by providing subsidy to help them stay in their homes. And like in the last 5 years, the last 7 years, we've helped almost 900 people stay in their homes. We have spent, as a community, using ARPA funds and other local funds, $5.6 million to keep those people in their homes. We, on average, each year spend about $2.5 million to give people assistance so they can stay in their homes. That, to me, is the most important thing we do as a community to keep people in their homes. That work happens each and every day. They're based in the annex. Raise your hand. I know Susan's here. Is there anybody else here from the Office of Housing Stability? Nisa's here, too. So when you walk out tonight, why don't you just give them a little high five, give them a little thumbs up. It's important work. Next slide, please. Part of what we're doing is trying to matching housing to the needs. We are in the process, and we're set to publish in the next few months, a housing needs assessment. Every 5 years, we take a step back and we take a look. We have this very helpful inclusionary housing law that requires that 20% of the units, new units developed in the city are affordable, but we want to check every 5 years to make sure that we're targeting our needs and designing our ordinance in a way that meets our needs. So the first step is to assess what are the housing needs. We're on the cusp of publishing that report. What we do know is that among other needs, keeping our elders in their homes has definitely been a challenge. And we've been successful in working with Senator Pat Jalen, who helped us start a pilot program with some state funding to keep seniors in their homes. This is another form of rental assistance that we're starting to provide seniors, and we thought we had a second phase of this, but it looks like the governor, not blaming the governor, times are tough, has held off on earmarks, so we're going to have to scurry around to figure out a different way to continue that program. Next slide, please. Oh, here we got Sonia Conde and Penny Taylor, 2 members of our housing stability team. What I also wanted to point out is that we did something that few communities have done across the country, and that we have set up our own municipal voucher program. And so you heard of housing vouchers, where either the housing authority or the state provides assistance to people, giving them a voucher. Go ahead, take this, and go use this as cash to rent your apartment to stay in your home. And we wanted to really up the ante and do more locally. And so we have, using 3 different sources. Let's see if I can remember them. ARPA, housing trust resources, and probably some home funds as well, our federal home funds, to establish a municipal voucher program that currently supports 30 different families in our community and keeps them in Somerville. And again, if you see Sonia and Penny tabling somewhere, you know what they're tabling about. And if you have friends and family who are in need of some housing assistance and might be able to take advantage of that, please direct them to the Office of Housing Stability. Next slide, please. We talked about some of the work that we do up on Beacon Hill and the advocacy that we do, and let's see. First thing we did was some advocacy on Beacon Hill last year. The Affordable Homes Act, the state, their 5-year housing bill, we advocated to make sure that folks that are evicted, we can have those records sealed so that doesn't impact folks as they try to look for apartments in the future. Very successful to be able to do that. It really feeds from some of the advocacy work and legal support that we do out of the Office of Housing Stability and we have a good understanding of what people's needs are. So we're able to change the law. We also have provided $2.3 million, $2.5 million of funding for access to counsel. This is where we help people and set them up with a lawyer to help them respond to an eviction situation that they're dealing with right now. So legal assistance has been hugely helpful. We've also pushed at the state level for a real estate transfer fee, which if we're successful, and we've made a couple attempts coordinating with other folks in other communities that are looking at the same opportunity, we estimate that that could generate $6 to $10 million of additional revenue each and every year in Somerville to help address our affordable housing crisis. We're still working on trying to get that passed. It's sort of a long road to make that happen. And then the last thing that we did was we are looking at rent stabilization, some form of controlling the increase in rents year by year. And we put together a proposal to cap fees at 5%. We're still working on it. Hopefully we can get something passed. But again, we just, next slide, please. So when we sum it all up, we have spent something like $60 million over the last 4 years in either creating affordable housing, keeping residents in their homes, and increasing the capacity of our Office of Housing Stability to help people. So a huge investment that relies on some federal funds, but a lot of local funds that, it really points to the fact that we think it's critically important to support affordable housing, create affordable housing, and to keep people in their homes. So, $60 million is nothing to sneeze at. Over 4 years, that's something like a lot of money each year. Trust my math. Next slide, please. Housing is half of the story, right? You can keep housing affordable and allow people access to housing. The other lever that we have is to increase the earning potential people have. And so that becomes a big focus of our economic development division. And I think we've got Chadi in the background. Chadi's, what's that? Oh, is that much better? Thank you. So the other side of the coin is to invest in the ability for people to earn additional income, because if they get paid more, they can support their housing costs. And our economic development team is focused on that piece. And we have something called the Jobs Trust, in which we charge developers an additional fee to support job training, and we put that into the Jobs Trust. We have a housing trust that similarly takes developer impact fees and puts it into the housing trust to support affordable housing. But the Jobs Trust has enabled us as a community to support all kinds of coordination efforts around the various nonprofits and state agencies that address employability issues for residents. So we're able to fund job training with nonprofits that train people in the biotech industry, train people in computer systems, and to train people in environmental jobs. We've also been able to address entrepreneurs and their needs. And some of the things that we've done is creating a commercial leasing handbook. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're, excuse me, if you're an entrepreneur and you are looking to rent a vacant space and to fill up a vacant space and start your business, oftentimes the biggest challenge you have is trying to lease the space with your landlord. And what you don't want to do is to get into a situation where you've signed a lease that you realize 6 months later has compromised your ability to run your business. So the commercial leasing handbook is designed to inform people before they take that step. We also, next slide, please. You know what? That's all I have. We're doing a lot of stuff. We keep trying to figure out ways to do even more to address our housing issues. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me either now. We're taking some questions now, 2 questions now, and you can certainly talk to me, Lisa Davidson. Raise your hand, Lisa. Lisa's our housing director. She'd be happy to answer any questions. And we also have Susan over here too from the Office of Housing Stability. You're convinced we're on a pace to solve all of our housing woes, right? You have confidence in us, right? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tom. I think that we should all give it up for Tom again, because it's not easy to present and much less to do so on the fly. So thank you. I think you did a great job. Much appreciated. And next we are going to hear from Ed Hardy from our 311 and Constituent Services Department.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Ward 2. Tom, hell of a job out there. This is my 7th time or 8th time, and you made it look easy, and trust me, it's not. Again, my name is Ed Hardy. Hello to all the city councilors and everyone who's here. I'm here representing this hardworking, dedicated, knowledgeable, compassionate, and dare I say, attractive group of agents who handle all your 311 calls. Notice I say attractive because if you look real closely, I am not in that picture. But I'm here to tell you a little bit about how 311 is structured, how we're managed, how we're measured, and that's really the key point I want to make. We're very proud that we were the first 311 operation within the Commonwealth, and in my opinion, we are the best managed, measured, and operated 311 organization in the Commonwealth. In fact, the director, Steve Craig, and myself are often approached by other municipalities around the Commonwealth asking advice as they go about implementing they're at the very nascent stages of their 311 implementations as well. So it's great to be looked at by your peers as someone who's kind of blazing the trail, and which we always try to do. Like I said, 311 is structured, managed, and measured as a call center. No longer do you need a Rolodex with a phone number for DPW, a phone number for Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, or housing, or anything. Really, the slogan is more than just a slogan. One call to City Hall. Anything you need, you can contact 311. We'll either have a knowledgeable 311 agent, such as my colleague Tim here, who will be able to answer your question right off the bat, or they'll log your service request and route it to the appropriate department. Tim is a great guy, but he's not going to go out and fill your pothole or empty your trash that you see overflowing. But he'll certainly make sure it gets to the right place. We are, like I said, managed, measured, and structured like a call center, which means we have a ticket tracking system. So when you do call in and request service, you're going to have a ticket opened up. They're going to give you what's called a service request number. That number will update you via text. If you've selected via text, it'll tell you what's happening. It'll notify you when the situation has been solved or closed as well. But really, when we talk about our structure and our workflow, when you do call into 311, your call is, where does my call go? It goes into one of three big buckets. The first bucket, which is the one we really love, I call it the first call resolution bucket. That's when someone like Tim, a very knowledgeable 311 operator, will answer your call. You'll have an exchange of information, or you'll ask for information. He'll be able to handle it and settle your issue right there on the spot. That's first call resolution. Again, as I mentioned before, Tim's not going to fill the pothole, so if he needs a service request to fill a pothole, he'll open a service ticket. It'll be routed to our DPW department. They'll go out and fill it, and when that pothole is filled, they'll close the call, and you'll get a text message saying that pothole has been filled. Most importantly, at the end of those service requests, you're also going to receive a very short customer satisfaction survey. It consists of four questions, actually. Because our goal, I'm not really talking to the slide, so I apologize, but our mission statement was up there before, and you can read it all you want. I'd just like to say that we will provide the best customer experience in the Commonwealth, period. And we do that by making sure that every interaction you have with 311 is of the highest accuracy, which means information either given, taken, or exchanged with the 311 agent is accurate. We try to coordinate that with other departments to make sure that websites are all displaying the same information, giving the same information. Some of our sister departments have kiosk or desk offices such as DPW and parking. We also work with them to make sure their exchanges and information exchanges with the public are all consistent, the same that you'd get from calling 311. So accuracy, courtesy, and ease, those are our three targets. Three things we're going to ask you about every time you open a service request. Were we accurate? Were we courteous? And was it easy to do business with us? And then we're going to ask your overall satisfaction. Now, we always talk about survey fatigue. You're going to get a service satisfaction survey after every service request, and that's to ask you to analyze that specific request that you had. Please continue to take them. The information we gather, and we do gather it, we measure it, we manage it, and we disperse it, report on it, is really the fuel that drives our continuous effort programs and processes across the city. So 311 may be a focal point, or the conduit, if you will, for routing, or the hub, where everything comes in. But, we'll report back to DPW, we'll report back to parking, saying, these are our strong areas, these are our weak areas. So we are taking all that feedback, reporting them back to the departments, and working together or in conjunction with them to either streamline our workflow to make sure your calls are answered quickly, to upgrade our technology to make sure that the calls are routed properly, or you can communicate with us via email or via text or social media, or anything that we need to do to improve the service delivery model is what we try to do. The great part about Somerville, I know it's, I'm not a Somervillian. I was a Somervillian by marriage once in my life. I'm not anymore. But the good thing about Somerville, we have 7 wards. It's a very homogeneous city, because I manage and measure all those customer satisfaction surveys that come back. And really, you'd look for spikes. It's a pretty homogeneous group, which means one ward is about 15% of the city as a whole. 7 wards, right? But we don't see really any spikes, which means parking, if it's an issue in this ward, it's an issue in that ward. If trash is an issue in this ward, it's an issue in that ward. But we track it down to all those different service types. In fact, 311 handles service types, more than 300 service types there. We work with over 20 departments. So anyway, you'll see here the orange line is the city as a whole, and the blue line is Ward 2, some of the top topics. And as I was just saying, they're pretty much the hot topics across the entire city. It is pretty homogeneous. I think that's it for me. Oh, and how to contact 311. Does anyone know the phone number for 311? I know, that doesn't go over very well. But we do have some people reporting this. Sometimes you'll call 311 and get Cambridge. That's really a cellular communications issue. If you're on the border, it might happen, or wherever your phone's registered. But we also have a direct dial number as well, which is the 617-666-3311. I won't read it all off, but there are plenty of ways to reach us. We are available 24/7. We say you can log a service request 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It doesn't mean that your pothole is going to get filled at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it means you'll be able to at least log that request. And once the department is open for business, it'll be routed the next day. With that, I'm actually going to be leaving this meeting a little early, but my colleague Tim is going to stay around if anyone has questions about 311 after. And other than that, thank you very much. Oh yeah, I'll take a couple questions. I'll tell you what, I'll repeat one question, because we got asked the other day, and I wrote it down. I wanted to make sure I got to use them. Someone was asking how many calls we get, and I don't think I brought it up earlier, but I looked at some numbers after I got that question from another ward. In 2024, we answered 68,913 inbound telephone calls during our hours of business, not accounting our overnight hours when we have an answering service, log your requests. When you add into that any kind of email, social media, chat interactions, we have in excess of about 110,000 interactions. 311 also staffs the welcome desk at City Hall. 311 attends all the beautiful and wonderful events that Christine mentioned in the first part of the meeting. You'll always see a 311 table there, so we're out and about. We are structured, managed, and measured like a call center, but it is not an outsourced call center. In fact, most of our 311 agents are Somervillians themselves. They're very knowledgeable. A lot of them have lived here for a lot of years, so when you do call into 311, it's not going overseas. You're talking to probably a Somervillian themselves who knows exactly what you're talking about. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ed. And next up, I would like to welcome Allison Moore from our Public Space and Urban Forestry Department.
Hi, everybody. I am Allison Maurer. I'm the ecological restoration planner for the city, but a lot of what my team does in general is build parks, renovate parks, plant trees, plant plants of all kinds. Go ahead. I'll give you a couple updates on things that we have accomplished and a couple tips and tricks that we'd like to pass along to you this year. First of all, we're excited to announce that we completed our open space and recreation plan. This is a state mandated document. Doesn't sound very interesting, but I personally, having worked on it for a long while, I think it's super interesting. So if you're thinking, I want to learn something about Somerville geology, Somerville history, sewer infrastructure, it's all in here, in addition to our vision for the goals and priorities around parks and recreation for the next 10 years. All of that's based on community feedback, and sort of synthesizes a lot from lots of different plans. So if you're interested in learning a bit about what we imagine working on, a bit about our history and our ecological context, take a peek at this document. We also published our Somerville Pollinator Action Plan in 2024. If you haven't checked that out, I recommend Googling it. There's lots of resources on our Summer Voice page, and we're now working on implementing some of that thinking. That includes adding pollinator plants at 5 parks across Somerville: Conway, Hoyt Sullivan, Chucky Harris, and the Wedding Nook at Prospect Hill Park. And then we've been cultivating this demonstration garden at City Hall. If you haven't seen it yet, it's an example of what the plan itself suggests that you can do. Some of the garden designs in that plan are on display there. You can contribute to this effort yourself by planting things at your own house, and you can become a pollinator champion if you fill out this pledge. That's the QR code right there. There's some sort of basic pollinator-friendly criteria, and if you meet those, then we'll give you a free yard sign to put in your yard to let all your neighbors know what you're up to, that you're part of this citywide effort to create new habitat. And this autumn, we want to remind you that less is more. You can be lazier. You don't have to do that much. Some tips from the plan for gardens and plantings include plant plants that are native to the Northeast. Rake leaves in your yard into your garden beds. Pollinators may be nesting in those leaves, and that nourishes the soil in your yard. And don't cut back your perennials until May. If you can leave them for 2 years, that'd be best. Insects like to nest in the dead stalks of plants. It helps them overwinter, to take shelter in the cold, and it creates a place for new pollinators to emerge next spring, so we support these pollinator populations that are in decline all across the globe. Final reminder, we like to tell people, most people think about bees and wasps when they think about pollinators, but we also have hummingbirds. They're pollinators too. So not all pollinators have stingers, and most actually aren't defending a hive, so they're unlikely to sting you. Also, half of bees don't even sting you. Male bees don't have a stinger. So things to keep in mind. So don't be too scared. Just generally don't touch them. We like to say, please just leave them be. If you want more information about how to create a pollinator garden, Google the plan, ask me. I'd be happy to talk about it. I have a little guide, a little concise guide I can hand out if anyone is interested in that. It is hot off the presses. Okay, one other exciting thing, in partnership with the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, this fall we're installing 10 inclusive swings. That is going to raise our percentage of playgrounds with inclusive swings from 23% to 89%. This feels like a very exciting accomplishment. We're thrilled about this collaboration. These new swings have a hard yoke. It's a plastic piece in front that you see there. But if you or someone you know is the caretaker of a child who requires a soft harness, please speak to me after the presentation and we will talk about how you can get one from us. Our urban forestry team, amazing folks. They're planting 350 trees a year. They also continue to oversee 2 programs for proactive tree maintenance. This year marks the completion of a full cycle of tree health assessments and responding to tree health issues for all of the trees in our parks. That means we've been to all of the parks in the last 7 years. We've gotten all of those trees pruned, and in the following year, we're going to start the cycle all over again. Our second maintenance program makes sure that we're assessing the health of all trees that have reached the 3-year planting mark to make sure that our young trees are doing okay, form nicely, and become good, healthy, lovely street trees. These prolong the life of the trees in our urban forest and just nicely accompany our goals of getting as many trees out there as we can. Lastly, I will reiterate just Councillor Scott's plug for our new park. In August, we celebrated the opening of Ken Kelly Park in Union Square. Ken Kelly is named after a local Union Square changemaker, restaurateur, community leader. Pay a visit to it next time you're on Somerville Ave. It's super lovely, little kind of living room for that neighborhood. We hope you enjoy it. Happy to answer any additional questions now or afterward about parks, trees, and open space. And thank you very much.
Hi, I'm wondering for Ken Kelly's Park specifically, you guys installed new gates on the park. I was wondering why they were installed because it makes the park feel much less inviting to have them closed off, and especially if you're trying to grab something from vinyl, it's harder to enter.
You asked about, this is Ken Kelly Park?
Ken Kelly, yes.
That's true. Yeah, we've had some internal debate about that as well. The idea was we get a lot of feedback from folks that it feels safer for their kids to run around and play in a park if it is closed so that they're not going to run into the street. That's not a thing that everyone agrees on necessarily, but we do hear that and try to reflect that in our park designs as much as possible. But I will take your comment back to my team. I know they're sort of vetting lots of different reactions to that addition, and so I'll let them know that another person voted no fence and gate.
On the subject of the fences at Ken Kelly Park, actually, if they're for preventing toddlers, they don't cover enough of the park to prevent a toddler running anywhere.
Gotcha.
So they're not really helpful for that purpose. It's kind of actually just a barrier to walking into the park if you're the type of person who can't step on the dirt.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. I will note that and pass that along. Yeah, thanks. All right, thanks everybody.
Next up, we're going to get an update in Ward 2 from the Somerville Police Department.
Hello, everybody. I am not Deputy Chief Jim Donovan. I wish I was. My name is Diogo de Oliveira. I'm a lieutenant for the Somerville Police. Currently, I'm a supervisor for the Criminal Investigation Division, and I'm here to talk a little bit about what's going on in the city. So, crime is up, not just in Somerville, in the majority of the communities around here. Citywide, there's an increase of 9%. In Ward 2 specifically, increased 41%. It does sound like a very large number, but I will tell you that the majority of these are larcenies, to include shoplifting. Target, unfortunately, has been hit a lot. There's a question of whether or not before there was an underreporting. They just hired a loss prevention team, which now it's been resulting in a lot of more detentions, a lot of more reporting to the police department. And in addition to that, unfortunately, bicycles and scooters, there has been an uptick in larcenies of bicycles and scooters. We have been working with the community, giving some tips on how to prevent or how to keep their property a little bit safer. Just recently, we posted something on our social media with some tips, which include locking them inside of your house, putting air tags, a lot of different things. A lot of these, we're finding out that people are just leaving them outside unsecured. Crime is opportunity, we all know that. So it's kind of there's a lot more that people can do to help us bring those numbers down. But violent crime has decreased. We see some decreases in commercial burglary, aggravated assaults, so those have decreased. And when we see a hot spot or an area where crime has been rising a lot, we deploy more directed patrols, more cars to patrol that sector based on those patterns, repeated incidents, and feedback from the community. We usually have a crime analysis unit that map out crime in the city, in the wards, and we'll try to focus our efforts on those areas. And those officers also, one more, go back, please. those officers also receive information. Sorry, can everybody hear me? Better now? Sorry about that. Officers also receive a briefing at the beginning of every shift, a roll call with what's going on, a crime bulletin, so that they are aware of what sectors and what to be on the lookout for. And we continue, like I said, we continue to talk to the residents, pass out information every chance that we get about crime prevention and crime awareness. Next slide. Domestic violence. Domestic violence, unfortunately, it's an issue every year consistently. You see that the numbers are high. The numbers for this year, we had 163 calls for domestic violence, but that doesn't necessarily mean that 163 arrests were made for domestic violence. So a lot of time that the police department responds just to do intervention, to do mediation. Sometimes there's a need for service that we provide. We connect them with a witness victim advocate. We provide assistance in bringing them to the courthouse to get restraining orders. There's a lot more that the police can do besides just showing up and arresting and removing people from the house. So that's something very important that obviously we want you to know. But unfortunately, there's a lot more that needs to be done in terms of domestic violence. It's a collaborative effort, and we have a great team with the victim witness advocate that has been helping them a lot. Next. Warm weather strategy. So every summer, obviously things pick up a little bit. This summer was no different, right? But we try to identify areas of problems so that we can focus on and help alleviate some of the problems, right? In Ward 2 specifically, we increase patrols in areas that we know it's going to be a problem. Twin City, right? We know it gets very busy in the summer in Twin City. Target, we have officers constantly. If you go to Target, you see officers in there all the time. It's not just for the Starbucks coffee, guys, you know. We actually go in there because we like to collaborate with Target, with their loss prevention. It's an opportunity for us to talk to people. We've recently had coffee with a cop there. So it's not just for the Starbucks, please, okay? Union Square, you constantly see officers just walking Union Square. It's one of the things that we love to do. If officers could, they would take 7 out of the 8 hours of their shift just walking around. Unfortunately, we can't afford that. And we also try to identify other problems from the community, right? This walking around and talking to people helps us get the feedback from the community that we need to find out what areas we need to focus on. Parks, we go to all the parks, we check the parks and find out if there are unhoused people there that are creating problems. There's a lot of issues that we can try to resolve that are created because of the warm weather. And we continue to do directed patrols in certain areas to ensure that we don't have any issues. And in terms of directed patrol, every year our numbers are going up. And if you don't know what directed patrol is, it's just a time that an officer will go to a specific location. He's not responding to a call, he's being proactive. He knows the areas of the cities, for instance, the parks, the schools, Union Square, an area that he knows attracts a lot of people, a lot of attention, and the officer will specifically put himself in that location, either just drive by or park his cruiser and walk. That's we call that a park walk and talk. Officers have 45 minutes that they're not responding to calls, they're not doing anything else besides walking around in the neighborhood and talking to people, getting feedback from the community, getting information. It does a lot of good. We get a lot of information when we're doing those park walking talks. And then business contacts too. We go in the squares, in, like I said, Twin City, Target, and we're just talking to the business owners to find out what the problem is, what's going on, what they need. People see the police cruiser, the police presence. It also serves a deterrence, right? Criminals that they know police is always around here, so maybe I'm going to stay out of this area. It's one of the things that does a lot. And like I said, citizens contacts, business contacts have gone up. Directed patrols have gone up. Those park walking talks has gone up. The police department has tried to do a lot to engage the community. It's Chief Binford's top priority to do community engagement, community policing. His goal, his vision is to bring back the community police officer to every single ward. We're not able to do that right now, but that's part of his project for the near future. Next. And this is how we're going to do, right? Police departments across the country are working very hard, believe me, to regain the community's trust, to rebuild that trust, build legitimacy, and Somerville Police is no different. We are really out there trying to engage the community, try to do good, try to do different things other than just police work, right? And just to highlight a few of the things that we've done this year, that we've done repeatedly, but this year specifically, we do every year a national night out. We did it at Dilboy Field. A lot of events. It's a lot of stuff for the kids, fun stuff too, free stuff. We collaborate and work together with a lot of the local businesses to promote this event. And every year the number has gone up, number of participants have gone up. The Junior Police Academy, same thing. Every year the number of youths that want to participate in the Junior Police Academy has gone up. This year it was held right here at the school. And it's a fun week. The kids love it. They have a lot of fun. And again, collaboration with another city department. We collaborate with Parks and Recreation to put this event together. And like I said, every year it's going up, so the kids must like it. Online safety class with the school, with the middle school. I actually participated in that one. Me and a few of my detectives, we put together a presentation for internet safety for the youth, for teens. We know that it's a big problem with preteens and teens about sexting and a bunch of other stuff, social media. There's a lot of dangers in that little piece of things that they hold in their hand for 10 hours a day, right? And there's a lot of stuff that they don't know, or they know they should know, whatever the case. And we presented it in a way that it opened their minds and their eyes to a lot of things. And believe it or not, there was a lot of engagement from the youth. They asked questions, they paid attention, they listened. We all know. I have a teenage daughter in my house. You're talking to them, they're looking at you. They're not looking at you. They're everywhere but focus on that conversation. We actually had a very good amount of engagement from 7th and 8th graders, and we hope to do this more if we're asked to do with every school in the city. And it was good because the school that we picked, it was bilingual, so we had officers presenting the class in Spanish, presenting in Portuguese. We have plans to do in Haitian Creole for the next one. It was very good. I really enjoyed participating in that. And we also we did a 911 awareness session. We did it with the elderly. Same thing, we did it in Portuguese, we did one in Spanish. Just teaching the elderly what happens when they call 911, what should they call 911 for, not to be afraid of calling 911. Some of them are afraid of calling 911. We had recently somebody calling 911 because they couldn't find a TV remote, right? And it's okay. We'll go over there. We'll do more, like I said. It's not just about going over there and arresting somebody for a crime. We went over there. We helped them. The battery of the TV remote wasn't working. We also went to Walgreens, and we bought new batteries, put in the remote. You know, she was so happy. She loved us. She called the 911 again to thank us, right? We have to explain, ma'am, this is just for emergency, but that's okay. You can call us anytime. So there's a lot that we are trying to do to build trust and legitimacy with the community. Next. And priorities for the future. We already are working in this, in the implementation of the call response with CORE. We already work with CORE a lot. There's a lot of calls that we involve CORE, that we use them for mediation, for diversion, right? Instead of arresting, okay, we're gonna link you up with CORE and work on a program, and if you complete this program, we won't put this paperwork to court. There's several situations where we invite them and we bring them to calls with us. There's several situations where they go to calls and they invite us to go with us. So we already work with CORE a lot, but it's the implementation of this program is a priority for the chief. Same to implement the recommendation for the Public Safety for All report. And create community policing command within the Somerville Police. Like I said, Chief Benford is big on community police, community engagement, and his vision for community policing is that bring back a police officer to every single one of the wards, right? Have a command staff, somebody of rank that people know. It's not just a police officer that has nothing to do with going to the wards. No, there's somebody from the executive staff who has a seat at the table, has the chief's ear, then is going to be able to go to the community, find out what the problems are, bring those problems back to the table, and have somebody dedicated that can address those issues. It's not just, oh, if I need something, I'm going to call the police, and every time I need something, it's a different police officer that's going to come to my house, to my business to try to help me with this problem. No, it's going to be the same police officer that you're going to get to know him by a first name basis. He's going to get to know you by a first name basis, and he's going to be able to help you with whatever problem you have in your community. So that's part of the plan, a neighborhood engagement team. And it's not just going to be the police. We're going to collaborate with other departments of the city too. And it's a way for members to engage with the community and help us solve the problems in your community. Who knows better what's going on in the community than you do, right? But if we have an officer that's dedicated to that community, that officer is deeply involved. Now it's personal. It's his ward. It's his community. Next. And we are hiring, right? We have retirements coming up. We have some officers that have been working for 30, one just retired not too long ago, 40 years on the job. I don't know how he did it, but we recently just hired 7 new officers, and 5 or 6 were minorities, right? So we are in the process of bringing diversity into the department, bringing fresh new blood into the department. So if you have a friend, family member, son, daughter who would like to become a police officer, tell them that we're hiring. And it's a good job. It's a very rewarding job. Even in difficult times, there's a lot of good that we can do. There's a lot of good that we do. Many times, it's also a difficult job, but it's a very rewarding job. And everybody knows how to contact the police department. We have the non-emergency number, 1212. You can also call 911 in case of emergencies. We have social media. We've been posting a lot more on social media. Like I said, we recently posted tips for people to secure their property, secure their bicycles. So we posted stuff for the Junior Policing Academy. So we're using social media a lot more. And you can always tell people as well, right? If sometimes people don't feel comfortable calling the police, calling 911 or whatever. They can submit a crime tip anonymously. There's several ways to do it. If they need help to do it, you can find me at the end and I'll show you how to do it. And I think that's it, right? All right. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi. I just want to speak about calling the non-emergency number, which 311 will recommend that you call the non-emergency number. Is there a way to make it a little bit more user-friendly? Because when I recently called, the recorded message says, if you know your department, well, I don't know my department.
Those annoy us too, believe me. Those
I mean,
are
I don't
very
even know what departments you have.
Yes.
And then you go through this whole, whatever, no, I don't. And then somebody, then can't you just switch it and say press 0 if you need to speak to
By
an
the
operator?
time the recording go through, the problem already resolved
Yeah.
itself, right? So yes, those 2 things. You can hit 0 and we'll take you to the operator.
But it doesn't say that.
And if you dial the other number, can you go back one more slide, please? If you dial the 617-625-1212, that will go straight to the dispatcher. The 1600 number is the city number. So when you dial that, you can dial any extension. You can dial an extension to a city department. But the number that will take you directly to a live person, the dispatcher, is the 1212 number.
Right.
Yes.
Well, you'd have to know the extension to.
No, so that one will take you to the dispatcher, right? So
Okay,
the dispatcher
all right,
will
great.
take the call.
It's
and
just
then
a
if you
stupid
say,
thing, but it's
No,
annoying.
believe me, it annoys us too. Like even when I call, I want to call somebody and I have to listen to that. I'm like, who do I want to talk to again? But yes, the 1212 number is the main number. Anybody else? Now's your chance. No, I'll be here at the end too. That's it? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome Brad, who's the director of our mobility department.
Do you want to grab that one? Sound check. How's that sound? Not too bad? Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. There's about 100 other things that anybody could be doing with their personal time on an average Thursday night in our great city. Playoff baseball comes to mind. I've got a baseball mad 9-year-old. We appreciate you being here and supporting Somerville's wonderful, vibrant local democracy. Civics matter. Neighbors helping neighbors matter. Neighbors getting access to power structures, to local government matter. So thanks for taking the time to be here. My name is Brad Rawson. I'm a Somerville resident. I'm a proud parent in our excellent public schools, and I have the privilege of serving our city as Director of Mobility, which is one of the little teams that Tom talked about in the big 80-person community development department. Several of my colleagues are here. We talked about Lisa, who leads our housing division. Allison's part of our public space division. The team that I'm responsible for does everything related to transportation, so public transit, pedestrian safety. We actually do development review, trying to make sure that new development occurs in a way that actually gets people on trains and buses, not just adding more cars to our streets. It's a super fun, really impactful portfolio. We take a great deal of pride in that work. But for those of you who are veterans of these community meetings, you know that there's a pretty good chance that you're going to come to these meetings, you're going to hear about rodents, and you're going to hear about traffic safety. These are some of the things that are just consistently identified by our residents as top priorities. So that'll be the focus of tonight's presentation. I've got about 7 or 8 minutes, and we appreciate everybody's attention. So I think we all know that during the COVID-19 pandemic era, our challenges with street safety went from bad to worse. We observed different driving patterns. We observed different compliance patterns. We know that there are more and bigger and more dangerous trucks being designed and marketed by the American automobile industry with worse sight lines that are much more deadly when they strike pedestrians. So there's a million reasons that Somerville residents are constantly telling us that they feel unsafe on our streets. We do our best to respond to that feedback and try to reduce risk on our streets every day. Let me start with some quick trend lines, though. Even though about 43,000 Americans are killed on American roads every year, and even though about 8,000 of them are pedestrians, people outside of cars, we actually have some signs of good news here in Somerville. So this is publicly accessible data. Somerville Police Department, Massachusetts State Police file crash reports when crashes occur. And if you're ever involved in one, not only is it a good thing to do to file a crash report, even for a small one, but it's also a critical piece of data for us. So please tell your friends and neighbors, if you're in a pedestrian, a vehicle, or a bike crash, file a report. The State Department of Transportation publishes these data in a public dashboard, and our team downloads and manages and models those data every month. So here you see a big, heavy blue line that shows all crashes reported in the city of Somerville by year. And on the top line, the very, very peak of that blue line in 2016, almost 1,000 crashes. But really, let's look at like that first, that kind of second half of the decade, 2015 to about 2020. We were experiencing about 800 reported crashes, even in our little 4 square mile city per year. And we see an obvious drop during the lockdown period, 2020. But then again, look at that kind of stabilization period from 2021 to 2024, where it's about 600 reported crashes per year. You can do the math. That's about a 25% decrease in reported crashes. Now, not all crashes are the same. I'll talk about that in a moment, but I think that's an important piece of background here. We also are trying to manage these data to understand risks every day and how things are changing month by month. So the dotted orange line here shows year-to-date totals for calendar year 2025. There's about a 6-week lag on the data reporting for the state, and so you kind of see that same downward trend line over time when you look at crashes reported through the end of August. So please know that when you file crash reports, when you tell us about near misses through 311 or other mechanisms, this actually really influences the way we do project design, project selection, and project delivery. Next slide, please. So for the longest time, our industry in transportation planning and engineering didn't really offer enough evidence-based tools to save lives on our streets. We talked about education, and education helps. We talked about enforcement, and enforcement can help. But the thing that has been empirically studied all over the world and has been proven to save lives is designing and managing streets where unsafe speeds are just not physically possible. Folks, I know that speed humps everywhere in a place like Somerville can be controversial and there can be drawbacks. We hear about those from our constituents and we welcome that feedback. But I want to look you all in the eye and say very clearly that Somerville's speed hump program, first of all, was developed based on your feedback and your desires. It's been scaled based on your feedback and your desires, and it is without question saving lives on our streets every year. So you see here an annual chart that shows as recently as 2017 and 2018, we didn't have a physical traffic calming program in this city. And I would be standing up here at meetings like this, I'd be working with our city council partners who are great champions for street safety, and they would say, why aren't we building speed humps? We didn't have the muscle memory, we didn't have the administrative processes on design work, procurement work, communications work, evaluation work, and I'm so proud that over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, we have been responsive to public feedback and built a program from scratch. There are lots of different departments who are involved in this process, so big tip of the cap to all of them who work on the planning and the execution and the operation of this work. We got another robust year ahead. So next slide, please. Okay, so there can be noise impacts. There can be vibration impacts. As I noted, there is no perfect tool as we try to pursue our safety strategies. So it's important for us to manage or to measure the effectiveness so that we can talk to our constituents and our elected officials and say, are we solving more problems than we create? Here is a little selection of higher volume neighborhood streets where we measure the volume and the speeds of vehicles before and after these traffic calming installations, and it works. Imagine, a street like let's pick one here in this neighborhood. I don't think I see any Ward 2 examples, but Vinyl Ave. Everybody knows Vinyl, just on the other side of Bow Street. Residents were petitioning us, were sending emails, working with their city councilors and saying, excuse me, we're really worried about cut-through traffic. So we go out, we measure, and we find that about 1 out of 3 cars are speeding. We've got the growing center there, we've got Nunziato Playground, a lot of vulnerable road users, older adults, kiddos, families with kids. And so we're able to build the speed humps. We measure afterwards, 2% of cars are speeding nowadays. That is a transformative reduction of risk. On some of our higher volume streets, crosstown connectors like Lowell, like Sycamore, like Summer, when you start thinking about what 40 or 50% of speeding vehicles look like, we're talking about like 1,000, 2,000 risk factors per day being reduced. Folks, humans mess up. Humans mess up in every element of our lives, and we mess up behind the wheel. There's an international movement to save lives on streets, and it says let's design them so that when humans inevitably mess up, they're driving their cars and trucks slow enough that somebody's not going to die. It really just comes down to that. And the magic number typically is 20 miles per hour. That's what we're striving for, streets that are driven slowly and safely at 20 miles per hour. Next slide, please. So if you or your neighbors are interested in getting into our planning pipeline, we're really proud that we've been able to lower barriers to entry over the years. It used to be that you had to go through so much bureaucracy to get access to these types of evaluations, and we've opened up different avenues. So the easiest, the lowest friction one is reach out to Ed and to Tim and their colleagues in our 311 system. They route those requests to us, and staff from multiple departments will review those requests. We work in partnership with our city councilors. Councilor Scott has been a great champion for these issues in Ward 2. City councilors at large, like Kristen and Will, who I see, Jake, have been great champions all over the city of Somerville. You can reach out to your councilors and they can file orders, they can email us or call us directly. That is another entry point to get your street considered. You can email us at transportation@somervillema.gov anytime. You can come to any one of our community events and talk to us, and we will take notes and add you to that evaluation list. This weekend we'll be at a couple of them, including Monster Mash, so you can talk to our staff on Somerville Avenue and say, hey, I'm worried about something happening in my neighborhood. Can I get on this list? Next slide, please. There's, as we try to save lives and transform our transportation system, we recognize that this has to be done with and by the community, not just for or around the community. It's really important that we do consistent engagement. So we're really proud that we handle more than 100 in-person outreach events per year to try to meet people where they're at, This includes things like tabling at our public schools during pickup and drop-off hours for parents and guardians. This includes our festivals and events. This includes special focus groups or workshops with youth, with our youth employment agencies and leadership development agencies at senior housing buildings. This includes flyering at bus stops, talking to people catching the bus, door knocking with small business owners and business districts, almost every tool in the box to get the word out and to get the input back. This is how we build broad and durable coalitions to tackle problems that we all inherited when American society turned its back on mass transit, turned its back on walking and biking, mixed-use, affordable neighborhoods, and said, we're just going to suburbanize and force everybody to drive in a car to do everything they need. 311 calls, big part of our work. Every Friday, our staff review them, and we process about 500 per year out of the 80,000 that Ed and Tim were talking about coming in citywide. So we're really proud and really accessible, and we want to stay honest, right? We want to keep our finger on the pulse of this community as we do this work. So home stretch here, if you want to learn more, a cool process, the innovation that we have achieved these last few years is an interactive map. Seems like a simple thing, but 5 years ago, we didn't have it. So now you can get on to the website that's listed here. You can zoom in, you can toggle on and off, figure out what we've built in recent years and what we are planning to build in the next couple of years. So you'll see that Ward 2 is quite well represented. Again, credit to JT, credit to everybody who's been helping us build coalitions in this neighborhood to keep people safe on our streets. On the right-hand side of this slide is a newsletter link. I know we have lots of newsletters in the City of Somerville, folks, but I'm biased. Please sign up for ours. It's really good. We really try to make it actionable and connect you to engagement opportunities. So it's not just like academic articles about something from Los Angeles or from Europe. It's actually about a community tabling event. It's about a survey that you can fill out to help get education, get involvement, raise your voices, and be plugged into this movement. So I think that is about it. One more slide? Hey, all right. Happy to take a couple questions. Happy to stick around this evening. Thanks for your attention. It's a small but hearty group. But again, folks, civics matter, democracy matters. We are at a moment in history where people are telling us to not stop doing stuff like this. I just really appreciate all of you meeting here as neighbors, working to solve common problems. Thanks.
This slide here, the traffic calming improves safety by reducing speed. How do you measure after? Like, do you have police officers with a gun gunning people?
Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. I probably should have had that in my talking points. There's a couple techniques. Automated traffic recorders are what we use. The industry has a couple different types. Sometimes they're little rubber tubes, usually in pairs, that run across the street, and they're pneumatic tubes. So when a tire hits the first one and then a tire hits the second one, they are connected to a little computer unit that's like chained up to a fire hydrant or a signpost, and it can calculate the size of the vehicle, believe it or not, and it calculates the speed of the vehicle. So we get hundreds and thousands of records over the course of 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, or even 7 days. We'll put this equipment out. There's a newer school version, which is LiDAR, a type of kind of radar device. So essentially roadside, lasers and radar types. So yeah, industry standard stuff. Privacy can be maintained. It's not about radar guns and human beings out there for 1 hour. It's these long continuous processes. And when we collect the data, I'll just note that we always use spring and fall. We know that patterns can change in the winter and in the summer. We avoid holidays. We control for things like bad weather or street closures and construction, things like that. I hope that's a helpful answer to your question. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Brad. Now that we have reached the end of all of the presentations, we can transition into a general Q&A. If you are a city staffer who presented tonight, I would ask that you make yourself ready and available to answer any questions. So, does anybody have any questions?
Hi, everybody. I live on the city line. I can't vote in Somerville, but I pay taxes here. We've lived here for 30 years, and we live near the corner of Prospect and Houghton Street, and we are literally under siege with all of the construction that's going on in our neighborhood. We have 32 units going up directly across the street on what used to be an empty lot, and another 30 units going on directly across the street, which was also an empty lot. And my observation over 2 years of hell, of noise, no parking, construction, street closing, the neighborhood is filthy with the dust from excavating, is will Somervision, which I know took forever to get finalized, will it ever be revised now that, especially in the Union Square area, you can see some of the impact on the neighbors in the neighborhood? The project across the street from us is being built, I would say, probably within 1 foot of the property line on every side. And there's no place for contractor vehicles, there's no place for building materials, there's no place for construction equipment. And that means that those of us that live on the street are being burdened supporting that. And there is zero benefit to being across the street from a development. Zero. They're only going to put 5 affordable housing units there, which in the rest of them are all going to be market rate, which is unaffordable as far as I'm concerned. And I wonder if Somervision will revise the zoning codes to include neighbor feedback, even though it's complying with zoning, or to have more of a setback so that vehicles can park there, materials can be dumped and all that, instead of in the middle of Houghton Street, which is what is happening right now. And I don't even know who can answer that question, because you, lucky guy.
I don't know if anyone saw me taking notes earlier, but I was trying to, off the top of my head, think of all the construction projects just in the Prospect Street corridor. So let's start. We'll start 10 Prospect, D2.1, 50 Prospect, D2.2/3, 51 Prospect, that's our Eversource substation, 82 Prospect, that's up on the corner by Oak, across Oak. There's 108, there's 118, there's 111 that was just finished, and there's 121 right on the city line. That's more than 600 units going in on one street in 4 or 5 years. I'm a Ward 6 guy myself for the last 10 years. We don't have maybe quite the same amount of development pressure that you guys have in Ward 2. The human impact on that amount of construction, it's not something that we take lightly. And honestly, we have increased our enforcement based on feedback from you guys. So 311's the lovely team that we have here. Jesse Moose, Nick Aleco, I'm sure you guys know those names. All your feedback we appreciate, and we do try to increase our enforcement. I can't speak directly to the zoning. I will say that projects of this size, they all have construction management plans, and we can't really have cookie cutter approaches to them because the street geometry in the city can be crazy sometimes, right? So you have a 0 or a really limited lot line project like 121 that the material, like you said, it has to go somewhere. And where is that usually? At the cost of parking, at the cost sometimes of sight lines. It brings construction crew into the street to move material. All things that are, sure, it's an unfortunate reality of construction, but it doesn't mean that we all have to suffer, right? So I can't speak for the zoning. I see Sarah standing next to me, so it means she probably will. But I will say thank you for, anytime you guys call 311 and say, this is a ridiculous construction activity, can someone come out here and talk to somebody? I promise you we are going out there and we are talking to people, and we're trying to improve, how these construction sites interact with the public realm every single day. So again, I know that's not like a super satisfying answer, but we do hear you, and we do review the construction management plans site by site to try to make try to minimize the impacts as much as we possibly can.
There seems to be no coordination. So Eversource dug up the whole street for the gas line. Okay, I get it. Then Cambridge, our house is partially in Cambridge, and Somerville dug up the street again for replacing the water lines with the lead pipes. And then Eversource tags the whole neighborhood, 4 blocks around, no parking on either side of the street, to repave the street, and the day that they start repaving the street, we get a thing that Comcast is going to dig a conduit. I'm like ready to kill myself. Seriously, it's like the noise and the interruption, and doesn't this get coordinated with ISD or? And I can't really complain about it because it complies with zoning. So nobody can do anything. That's why I'm asking, are you considering, now that you have some experience, revising some of the zoning?
So, your feedback is something that, I mean, we hear it at every single ward meeting, and I agree, as someone who deals with that every single day. I didn't have gray hair before I started working here. Now I have it in my beard. So, seriously though, when it comes to the private entities, we do as much as we possibly can to try and get them out ahead of time and try to coordinate, whether it's city water and sewer and drain work, getting the private utilities to commit to spending their dollars to come out and do a lot of this stuff at the same time. One of the, unfortunate realities of doing all of the utility work at the same time is it still does take a really freaking long time because you gotta play well in the sandbox with each other. So one year it might be water and sewer, the next year it might be Eversource. Ideally, Comcast and fiber and those companies are coming out at the same time too. That can take a really long time, and it's a really difficult balance between living on a street with perpetual seeming construction, right? Especially, this is a big renter community. I've rented the entire time I've lived here. Not everyone stays that long. So if you live in Somerville for 3 years or something and you're living through that project, you might live through consecutive construction until you leave. And, like I said, it is one of the great challenges that we have, and I promise we do reach out to all the private utility companies to try and do this stuff as, meaningfully sequential as we can. It's not perfect. I think everyone knows that. But I promise we do focus a lot on that, especially with these private developments. We try to time things up perfectly when we have water sewer drain projects that the city funds. We try to, work with private developers, stub out their utilities ahead of time. So we're digging maybe 1.5 times instead of twice. Like I said, it's not perfect, but trying to make those incremental changes over time. We are doing our best, and we're always open for feedback.
What do you mean by enforcement?
What do I mean by enforcement?
What do you mean by enforcement?
In what context did I just say enforcement? I was rambling.
You just said we enforce things while these projects are going on. If somebody makes a complaint, what do you mean by enforcement?
Every time one of you guys submits a 311, calls the engineering office, calls sometimes a different department that's relevant to construction, and it gets forwarded to us, I promise every time one of those calls is made, we go out on site, we talk to someone on site, we don't leave until some kind of corrective action is made. Whether it's as simple as, why did you decide it was a good idea to park an excavator here? Like, those are how silly some of the questions that we are asking every single day.
Well, what I think, this woman can correct me if I'm wrong, cars parked double parks or on the streets.
There's no detail, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up a lot of time. I just want to know why they were even permitted. We didn't even know what was getting built there because it complied with the zoning, so we didn't have the neighborhood input thing. So then, all right. And then you see when they're excavating what they're doing. And then, I can't be calling you guys every time I can't drive down my street, or every time there's no police detail to manage the traffic. They say that the police don't come when they order a detail. Who knows? Like, everybody's pointing fingers at somebody else. And my point is that the only people that benefit are the developer, not the people in the neighborhood. And maybe someone like you who's been renting all the time, maybe you leave because you can't stand the disruption. That's what I hope doesn't happen.
I've lived there for 27 years. I've seen more people on bicycles pulled over by police than I've ever seen in 27 years a car. I've never seen a car. I've lived in Union Square since 2009. I've never, ever seen police in Union Square. I've seen them at the police station, even the police station. I've never, ever seen somebody pulled over, going through a red light, speeding, and people always get killed all the time. So I feel your pain. Try being here for 27 years. Okay, there you go. So you know my pain.
Anyway, not to put you on the spot, like, we all know that.
I'm always on the
you
spot,
know,
it's okay.
Traffic enforcement kind of stopped during COVID, that's went out to be, whatever. So it's just, if it complies with zoning, there's no recourse for anybody. And maybe if you send people out, 311 people, to, various departments, if there's a complaint, maybe it would help if the person that actually goes out then gets in touch with the complainer, me, right across the street, and says, I came here today, because it goes into some, nothing happens. So, anyway, I'm just crapping about it because I'm so frustrated about it.
I know you feel like you're putting me on the spot. This is important feedback, and this is a reality of, the new zoning, right? And the two sort of competing interests are, we need more housing, we need to make it easier to build housing, we need to make it easier to permit housing. Then once it starts getting built, everyone has to live with those decisions, right? I understand where you're coming from there, for sure. I understand. I'm just speaking from the engineering piece, and the change in the zoning years ago has changed our job dramatically. And it was, a city initiative for the zoning to go through and to permit projects like this. And the reality of that is it's a lot harder to enforce individual projects when there are so many going on one street, let alone the whole city, right? So I'm not here to make excuses. I wish we could be everywhere all at once. And I also wish that when we go to make a corrective action, we don't show up the next day with the same issues on certain construction sites. It happens everywhere. All I can promise you is that when you guys call engineering, when you call 311 and those calls get routed to me, someone of my staff is going out there and is doing our best to try to make those projects interact with the public better. I'm gonna go sit down.
Does anybody have any other questions? Going once? Okay.
I'm not sure who can answer this question, but is there anybody here who can answer what is the occupancy rate of the buildings that they've built in the last 5 years in Union Square, specifically the ones around the station, the Bacon Building and the labs and stuff like that? I was wondering if anybody knows the occupancy rates on those.
No.
If you're talking about 2050 Prospect, I think that's what people call it, the vacant building, the affordable units are rented. Unfortunately, when it comes to the market rate units, we don't get those. Those, somebody from economic development could probably give a better answer. Yeah.
Any other questions over there?
I don't know if this is an appropriate place for this, but in the news a lot with the cuts of the federal budget and the grants. How does that impact Somerville? Do we know that yet? Are we making plans for that?
Pinch hitting, great question. It affects us a lot. It affects us across a lot of different departments. My small view in the transportation world is one of uncertainty and of pain and of frustration because we work hard to relieve local taxpayers and local sources by getting access to federal funding. And we've definitely had slowdowns with some discretionary grants. So we and cities like Somerville are definitely feeling that impact. To pinch hit on behalf of other colleagues, I will note that across lots of other areas of public policy, including but not limited to education, housing, workforce development, parks, utility infrastructure, other federal funds that ultimately flow to the city, sometimes through state agencies, are also at risk. It is a scary new world out there, and the rules are gone. They are gone, folks, like the smash glass in case of emergency. We're lucky that we have a great federal delegation and state delegation working with our city council and our mayor and our staff every day to understand and mitigate these risks. But make no mistake, we're being targeted, and there are real impacts to our community.
It's a transportation question too. Andrew Aldridge, I'm an avid bicyclist, walker here in the city, so I've appreciated things slowing down dramatically here. It does feel much safer. I have one spot, and I don't know if this is the spot, but in front of Cambria Hotel, as you're heading west on Somerville Ave, so many lifts, so many food delivery trucks, stop in the bike lane right over there. There's nothing permitting people to stop in the bike lane over there. And as a driver going there, it's dangerous because you have people on bikes bumping out. And as a bicyclist, you don't know what to do over there. I appreciate the bump outs over on Conway. That's pretty cool. But what's happening over there? And then that also extends to the new buildings too, as to like, how do you take care of the lifts, the food deliveries, because those are always using the bike lanes as like parking spots.
Andrew, thanks for the question. This is definitely a hot spot that we hear about from constituents, and we also experience as users. You know, I live in the neighborhood, I drive, catch the bus, walk, and bike. I coach Little League Baseball at Conway Park. I see this all the time. Definitely a hot spot and a concern. So a couple things. Number one is physical design matters a lot. So having a separated facility, a separated bike lane that is physically, where vehicles cannot encroach, that is definitely the gold standard for mitigating and reducing that risk. But related to that, we as an organization are trying to be very clear and honest with our constituents, with private business owners and operators, that deliveries are a reality, that pickup and drop off is a reality. And so when we do our projects, we typically try to plan for legal loading zones, for metered parking, commercial loading, ADA only parking as a priority for any parking or curb access on a given street. And so you'll actually see that on Western Washington Street here on a project that we did recently, where some resident parking had to be repurposed to have wider sidewalks, better bus facilities, safer bike facilities. But we worked to communicate that the priority was actually to have regular loading zones, metered parking, and ADA parking. So providing an actual predictable space for some of those activities to occur is part of the toolkit. There's always enforcement. That hotel in particular is supposed to have its drop-off for guests occur within the garage that's kind of tucked under, but we know that that doesn't happen. I will note that the city has been experimenting and scaling up an automated enforcement program for curbside access, for blocked crosswalks, blocked bus stops. And I was just on the phone with my counterpart who manages our parking department. She's the brains behind this whole initiative, and she's looking for scaling opportunities. This could be a really good one, so I'll take that note. But the last thing I'll note is that you may be involved already. The city has launched a safety project for Somerville Avenue as a whole, from Union to Porter, or at least from Bow Street, Market Basket to Porter. That project is expected to be implemented in calendar 27. We're just at the beginning of the community engagement process right now, but that project will include continuous, safe, separated bike facilities for the entire length of Somerville Avenue, consistent with our long-range plans and our adopted ordinances that our city council has passed, mandating that we provide that level of protection and safety. And again, folks, I want to acknowledge that this type of thing can be controversial. The use case that we are after here is kiddos biking to Conway to baseball practice or to soccer or to whatever their activities are. It's not just the tech commuters trying to get through Somerville to Conway. These are our neighbors, and they really should have flexibility and safety, whether you're 80 years old or 8 years old. Okay, thanks.
Going once, going twice. Okay, I think that's all, folks. If you guys have questions that you think of later, feel free to email cm@somervillema.gov. We'll get those comments directed to the appropriate department. And thank you guys all so much for coming out, and staff especially. I know that it's been a long fall meeting series, but thank you guys all so much.